So would you kindly permit me to... So may I have your permission to just make a few opening remarks?
Yes.
Please, sir.
Minister
Sir,
already moved.
You have already moved.
If he wants to say something,
If you want to say something more,
if he wants to say
I may have to explain the...
all right. Then member will speak after.
Sir, I am extremely grateful to you, even though I had been permitted on Thursday afternoon to introduce the bill, to explain what this bill is all about. So the Indian Divorce Act 1869 was in fact enacted in the last century as almost an exact replica of the English Matrimonial Causes Act of 1857. Thereafter, there was a great demand for changes and improvement in terms of gender equality in the English law. And in 1923, the English law itself was changed. We've had in the last 45 years several attempts made to improve and change several clauses in this law. The Law Commission on 4 occasions, that is to the 15th report, the 22nd report, the 19th report and the 164th report, had suggested certain changes to the Act itself. Thereafter, several provisions of this Act were also called into question before several high courts in the country. And 2 particular provisions, that is Section 10 and Section 17, were held to be ultra-virus and struck down by several high courts in the country. I had therefore in December last year introduced this bill after consultations with the members of the community. It has always been a policy of the central government that when changes in personal laws are made, we make a concerted effort to have very large-scale discussions with the community itself before those changes are suggested. And when changes had been suggested by us in December, they were suggested essentially to those 2 provisions which had been struck down by the courts. And in order to fill up the vacuum created by the courts striking those down and consequential changes, those changes were introduced. The bill was then referred to the standing committee itself, and the standing committee had extensive discussions. There were several representations made, and a very large number of organizations appeared before the standing committee. They had also separately met me. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of India, the National Council of Churches of India, the Joint Women's Programs. And I am glad to say that almost all of them not only supported the initial 2 suggestions, but also wanted several new suggestions and improvements to this bill to be suggested. The standing committee, except one, accepted all the suggestions which were made, and when the matter came up before the government, except one suggestion, we have also accepted all suggestions which were made by the community. The only one suggestion which we have not accepted relates to empowering certain religious authorities to settle certain civil issues relating to marriage and dissolution of marriage itself. This we could not accept because under our scheme of law, as far as civil rights are concerned, the power and authority to decide them can only be vested in judicial and court authorities, and that power cannot be abdicated in favor of any other agency. If I may, sir, just explain the changes which have been made as a result of the recommendations of the standing committee, which I am also proposing through the amendments which I have moved. Section 7 of the original Act said, because it was an 1869 Act, that the law laid down in relation to this Act by the courts in England will apply. The Supreme Court has already held that after 1947, because of our own sovereignty and the sovereign jurisdiction of our own courts, the law laid down by another jurisdiction in another country cannot be compulsorily applicable to our laws. Therefore, Section 7 is proposed to be amended. The most significant change is made to Section 10. Section 10, which had been struck down by about 5 high courts in the country, gave different grounds of dissolution of marriage to the husband and entirely different grounds of dissolution of marriage to the wife. In fact, the case of the wife was very difficult because even adultery itself was not a ground. Something more than adultery had to take place, cruelty with adultery or bigamy with adultery, which was a ground. Now, this had been struck down on the grounds of it being ultra-virus. We had suggested certain equal grounds to be suggested, But after consultation with the representatives of the community, the standing committee has suggested a new formulation where most of the common law grounds which are applicable in other laws elsewhere in the world and in India are equal grounds now sought to be made available both to the wife and husband. Therefore, the gender bias in section 10 has been corrected. The rights of wife and the husband are both the same. There was another discomfort which was caused to the community by the provisions of section 17. After evidence was recorded by various district courts, the confirmation of the decree of dissolution had to be made by the High Court. And in the High Court, the matter used to go to a full bench. Therefore, not only was the time consumed was very large, besides time consumption, it was also a costly exercise. This provision had also been struck down by a High Court, and therefore now this provision is sought to be deleted itself. There were several other provisions. For instance, it enabled the husband, in the event of an allegation of adultery against the wife, to start claiming damages from the adulterer who was living with her, compensation in relation to section 35 in relation to cost to be claimed from in the event of adultery, cases where the property of the wife would be taken away and vested either in the husband or in the children in case one of the matrimonial offences was proved. Now, these were all provisions which were one way, and a corresponding right had not been given to the wife itself. The standing committee felt that all these provisions now required to be deleted, and this unanimous report of the standing committee, as I said, has been accepted by this government. And with all these amendments, while removing the provisions which created a bias in this law, one very important law which has been changed, which members of the House have commented in relation to other discussions, the outer limit of maintenance for a Christian wife was fixed at 1/5. The standing committee felt that this capping was no longer necessary, and it was for the judicial authorities really to decide as to how this has to be fixed in the given facts of the case. We've accepted that entire recommendation. The members of the community who met us also felt that even though the title is Divorce Act, but since there are segments in Christianity which do not appreciate the use of that word, therefore in the text of the act itself, the word used should be dissolution of marriage itself. We have respected that sentiment and therefore used that word. Section 10 capital A again has been suggested by the community to be added as a provision for dissolution of marriage by mutual consent. Now, this provision was necessary because in a case where marriage doesn't work, it was still necessary for one party to make serious allegations against the other, prove those allegations, and only then the marriage could be dissolved. The community felt that this was no longer necessary. When both parties are willing, it could be dissolved by mutual consent. We have also accepted that suggestion which has been recommended by the standing committee. I commend to the Honourable House, sir, that this bill be accepted.